Hello friends, today we're going to be interacting with a smart contract through a UI, and we're going to do it through a very simple app that we are going to create in Flask. Flask is a very nice web framework that exists in the Python ecosystem. We are going to review first what is the structure of a Flask app, then the specifics of our Dapp, and then how to get it connected with a smart contract. The smart contract that we are going to be working with is one that I deployed recently, which is my guess the number game. The structure of a Flask app is the following. You need to have a file that will load Flask. In this case is my app.py. This one is just getting my Flask environment initialized and is setting the template that will be rendered in my root directory, which is the index.html template. We are going to talk about that one later. We have also this run.py, which is just an initializer that is kicking up this one. So that one is not very relevant. It just says that run the app. What is more important is the templates, right? So we have this index.html here that is interacting with my guess the number game contract. And what it's doing is allowing people to log in with Metamask, of course powered by Moralis, and it's allowing people to get the balance of a guess the number game according to the game ID. This is something that we are going to review a little bit later. What is the logic for doing that? You can see here at the top of the template that I have this extend declaration, and this is because I'm inheriting this base template HTML that I have here in this directory. And this base template is nothing more than a very simple skeleton of an HTML file that is loading Bootstrap for powering our UI to look a little bit better, a little bit nicer. So that's all for the server side. Now, once we move to the logic, since we are not serving any other view, and we are not kind of building our own APIs to wrap other APIs, this logic will be mostly laid down in JavaScript. If you're working with the front end, you have to know your JavaScript a little bit. So don't get nervous about it. For this app, I will walk you through it. So what we're going to do in the JavaScript side is first you have to decide where you're going to store this JavaScript file. I like to have it in a directory that I call static, and inside that one in another directory that I call JS. That's just the structure that I prefer. And then the logic inside this one is very simple. I'm initializing my Moralis object here with credentials that I will get from Moralis. I have an ABI of a guess the number game contract, and the way I got it was that I went to the project that hosts the guess the number game. I went to build, I went to contracts, and then I have this JSON file here. This JSON file contains my ABI under this key over here. So I copied that, and this file has a lot more things, but I just copied the ABI and got it back to my file here, my JavaScript file. Then you need your contract address. With these two inputs, you're going to create a contract object. And this contract object is going to be created thanks to this Web3 object that we are getting by way of piggybacking with the Ethereum environment that Metamask provides by itself. Something important to remember here is that there are ways to validate that Metamask is installed and that you have a valid connection, but that goes above the scope of this project at this moment. Once we have this contract object, we are able to have a button to interact with one of the functions of the contract, which is get game balance. We provide what is the parameter that we need to send, which is the game ID. And for that, we are capturing it from the content of the HTML document. So we have an input field there for people to place the game ID number. Then we call it, and then we'll get the balance of that specific game ID. But we have an issue here, and the issue is that the call is asynchronous. So we're not going to get it right away. So we have another function here to get us the value in values of the specific token that we are working with. And since in the Ethereum network and compatible networks such as Matic and BSC, that's 18 decimals, so we're dividing it by 10 to the 18 to get the integer balance, not the decimals. And then we are populating that into another input field. We have our login function here that allows us to log in with Metamask powered by Moralis, and we are allowing people only to log in once. So we are not going to allow them to play with the input files once they have already logged in, and we are not going to allow them to play with the game and contract interaction balances unless they are logging. For interacting with our contract, we have to have our contract first, and for that we need an ABI and a contract address. The ABI is already here, I already pasted, and that will be in the repo, so no need for you to worry about that. But we have some information here that we need from Moralis. We need the Moralis application ID and the server URL. As well, we need the guess the number game address, which is something that I already have in Moralis as well, but this can come from your own Brownie environment or any other place where you have stored the contract that you want to interact with. So let's get to Moralis to get the data. In Moralis, if you don't have a server, you will have to create a new one because this one is going bye-bye after I record the video. The elements that you need for logging is your server URL. And let's take that one to our Visual Studio Code. And we also need the application ID, which is over here. So with these two elements, we are able to log in our app with Metamask, which is the logic over here. Now, the other thing that we need for this Dapp to work is the contract address to create a contract object that we are going to be interacting here in this function. I already built some tooling for this specific contract in Moralis, so I can go to the server. Since I will be interacting with my app to know the balances of my games, and since every time someone creates a game I have created an event, I have installed this Moralis plugin here to be able to track that data. So let's go to that plugin to check also what is the address of my contract. So is this address. This address of your contract you can get from anywhere that you have copied it, maybe from Brownie itself, because when you deploy the contract you might have it, but it's not very relevant. So once you have the address, you can paste it over there and then you are done. The app is ready, so let's run it. We are going to do Flask Run, and this is not working because I'm not in the virtual environment. So let's do source bin activate. Right now, let's return to our app directory, and right now let's do Flask Run. Let's go to our internet browser. So here we are, but for doing this I might want to have the assurance that I'm connected to the Binance Smart Chain network, which is here, the testnet, and I disconnected myself just to be connected again. I will do the following. I will run my name Daniel at daniel.me, and I will connect through Metamask. Moralis is playing its magic, and we are connected, and these two inputs have been open for us to interact with. When we have logged to Metamask with our server, there is something interesting that will happen. If you go to your dashboard here and you go to user, you are going to see that there's one user here, which is Daniel at daniel.me, and here is my session. So this is very neat. You can have all the information of your users here captured very neatly in your server. And there's another piece of data that we want to get. This is something that you might not get out of the box. The listener here that I set up in my server is telling me how many games exist. I have 2 games already for that contract, 0 and 1. So let's check what are the balances of those games. So let's take game 0. Let's get the game balance. And that game balance has 0. Let's check the game balance of game 1. And here we have some BNB. This game has not been already guessed or expired, so there is some funds there. Guys, this is the way that you interact with a smart contract with a Flask app. And this interaction was done in a very straightforward way. As you can see here, it's 30 lines of code in your logic.js. And this is possible because Moralis offers you a very easy way to interact with your smart contracts. Remember to like this video and subscribe to the Moralis channel. All the code for this project is available in the GitHub repository in the description of this video. Thank you very much. This is Daniel. See you in the next video.